Talk about Dr. Hill. Dr. Hill throw them keys at you.
But I've got 6 o'clock on the nose, if we will. We'll bring our meeting to order. If you will, Ms. James, would you please call the roll of the council?
The Honorable Mayor Pro Tem James Whitmore.
Present.
Honorable Ulysses J. Smallwood.
Present.
Honorable Hattie Portis Jones.
Present.
The Honorable Samantha Hudson.
Present.
The Honorable Linda J. Davis.
Present.
The Honorable Alex Heath is absent.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
The first item tonight is the electric rate overview, discussion of weather and usage. City Administrator.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. We wanted to have a presentation this evening to address our recent utility rate increase, just to provide additional information and context. We are fortunate to have with us Electric Cities of Georgia this evening. As many of you are aware, they are a nonprofit organization providing strategic and technical services to 52 public power communities across the state of Georgia. They specialize in providing strategic and technical services to communities with utility operations. They help to maximize performance of those utilities and ensure structural stability, reliability, and help cities to attain economic prosperity. With us this evening is Sarah and Cho, who we've worked with before. And so we're going to invite them to come forward and share some information. They can provide a context not only for Fairburn specifically, but also for the 49 other cities across the state that they partner with for utility services. And with that, I'll turn it over to our team from ECG.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. It's good to be back. So I'm going to start with a quick overview of the rate plan that was presented and adopted. And I wanted to start by saying that the objective here was to get the electric fund revenues to cover all the electric costs, and that would also include any transfers out of the electric fund to the general fund to support local city government and also any reserve requirements. Now, if you remember, what we talked about is that the electric fund had a rather large deficit. It was running 2.7 million short. This was because rates hadn't been changed for 10 years. Costs had gone up significantly, like everything else. Power costs had gone up $3 million. So we put in place a rate plan that combined rate adjustments and use of MCT reserve funds to help get the revenues where they need to be to cover their costs, because you can't continue operating in the mode of losing money. Just doesn't work well, and eventually you would have no money, you would use up reserve funds, you wouldn't be able to support the infrastructure of the electric system. So it was critical to get this plan in place, to get the electric fund standing on its own again, and to further support the city, local government with a transfer. So having said that, The impact on row 3, there's a percent increases there. That's the percent of the total electric fund increase annually. Tonight I'm just really going to talk about the 2024 rates as far as impacts on customers. I know there's been a lot of questions, so we thought it would be helpful to talk through a few concepts to help you all understand better. So for the average residential customer, this rate change in 2024 was about a 10.5% increase. For the average commercial customers, there's multiple rate schedules for commercial, so that range was about 10 to 11.3% roughly. But we're focused on residential tonight. So I'll talk about the residential class. Cho was going to talk about electric usage in some more detail, but generally speaking, if you look at monthly usage for residential customers, it varies every month. The typical range would be from 0 to, say, 3,000, or you might have customers that use 4,000 kilowatt hours per month or more. But for this rate change, the impact is 10 to 11% for customers at those different levels of usage. But when I'm talking about that, what I'm saying is that if a customer, and this is just an example, if a customer used 1,500 kilowatt hours in December, and then they used 1,500 kilowatts in January, they would have seen a 10.5% bill increase. Typically, the usage changes from month to month, so let's just think about 2023. If they had used 1,500, say, in November, and then in December had increased their usage to 1,800, no rate change, they would have seen a 15% bill increase from the one month to the next. So what's happening is the most important thing to remember is that there are two inputs into the electric bills, not just the rates, but also the amount of electric power that the customers are using every month. So you might hear us call that kWh or kilowatt hours usage consumption, but that also drives how much customers are going to pay. So if you take a customer who used 1,500 in December and then in January used 1,800, they might be seeing, it's 26.8% increase. But you have to think of it this way, 10, 11% of that is due to the rate change, but the other 15% increase there is due to their change in consumption, how much they used in their residence. From, they changed 300 kilowatt hours, that also impacted the bill level. And like I said, Cho will talk about electric consumption a little more, and that should be helpful. A couple things I wanted to mention, just for some perspective. So twice a year, the Georgia Public Service Commission publishes a rate survey, once in January for winter rates and once in July for summer rates. This is all the utilities in the state. So 90 utilities, all the municipal utilities, all the electric cooperatives, and Georgia Power will report their basically residential bills for 4 levels of usage. And anybody can look at this. You can look it up online. What we're showing here in this slide is the January 2024 comparisons, winter rates. So what it shows is that the city of Fairburn's, the new rates that were just put in place in January, you're comparing to the state average, you're running at about the same as the state average at all levels of consumption. So,
Sorry.
yes.
I thought it was on.
So the Public Service Commission rate survey has 4 levels of consumption with all 90 utilities. The city of Fairburn's rates, we'll start with the average residential customer, which is about 1,000 kilowatt hours. City of Fairburn's bill is the same as the average state of all 90 utilities. You're running at the same as the average. For 500 kilowatt hours, the bill is slightly lower than the state average. And for the 1,500 and 2,000 kWh, you're slightly 1 to 1.3% above the state average. So that's 90 utilities. That's not a bad place to be in the average. In that, you can check it again for the summer rates. We don't know what July will look like, but anybody can check that in July and August. Look online. The link is on the slide. You can see the history is there as well, but it's a good way to see how the rates are doing compared to the other utilities. I just mentioned this again, Georgia Power's rates have gone up 27%. There's 2 already adopted increases, one's for Vogtle 4, that will come in line, and then there's another 4.5% in January 2025. So again, you know, the message here is also some perspective. On this slide, we looked at these rate surveys that were published, and it's showing that from summer 22 to summer 23 and winter 23 to winter 24, almost half of the utilities in this state had some kind of increase in residential rates. So I'll say that again, almost half the utilities in the state. And these are fairly significant increases. If you take the average of all the utilities with an increase, it's 7 to 10%. Now, and some of that is reflective of a lot of the power costs changes in 2022, 2023 marketplace time. So there were utilities that had to really bump up power cost adjustments significantly. But that, you know, that's to add some perspective as far as the rates go.
So, good evening. My name is Cho. Thank you for allowing us to be here. So, just to recap, what Sarah said was, you know, your rates, when compared to 90 plus other utility in the state of Georgia, you are on the average. You're not significantly higher. You're not significantly lower. You're on the average with the other ratepayer, other utilities. Additionally, you're also looking at all the utility taking the similar action of raising rate just because of the power costs. As you see in slide 6, you see almost half of the 90-something utility in the state of Georgia raised rate in summer between summer 2022 to summer 2023, and then again between winter of 2023 through to winter of 2024. So, you know, I think it's really truly a reflection of time. You are living during, you know, we just slightly passed the period of inflation, but that you know, you don't see costs going down. I mean, the rate inflation has gone down, but the cost is still there. It's not going down. So at the end of the day, you know, we have to take all that information in and say the city, number one objective for this rate study that we just, you all just approved was that we have to make sure the city of Fairburn Electric Fund has to make whole, have to balance the budget. You can no longer sustain yourself with all the maintenance and issues that had to go involved with the, you know, all the utility and line and infrastructure. Now, another point that Sarah raised was the bill that resident customers see are based on the rate itself as well as the consumption. And here's a big point. If you look on slide number 7, you can see the typical summer and winter day. Typical summer day is the highest consumption. The area in blue is really the average consumption by the hour. And you can see that it spikes around 3 to 4 o'clock simply from the load of AC. You know, that's usually the hottest time during the summer period, 3 to 4 o'clock, and then subside. And in the winter day, if you have electric heat, you would typically see, you know, as you wake up, you want to be able to warm yourself, get ready for the day, and as you go through, and then as soon as you leave the door, your energy consumption starts going down because you turn down the heat until you get home, and and you restart again. But the variation of the usage vary throughout the day, and is differ by summer and winter period. Now, for customers who have winter heating with the electric winter heating, this is essentially they are getting a double whammy because not only you have to cool your house during the summer period, you also have to heat your house during winter period. Now, my house have both gas heating and AC summer, so the bill is more moderate. But for the electric heat, it could cause issue, and that issue become prevalent because of something called, you know, because of weather, right? So the weather impact in this is that usually in a heated or cool home, energy consumption tend to depend on outside air temperature. The colder the outside air temperature, the more energy it takes to heat a building. And it's very true for the electric heating household. Now, the warmer the outside air temperature, the more energy it takes to cool an air-conditioned building to a comfortable temperature. Empirically, the National Weather Service, the federal government, use something called heating degree day or cooling degree day to kind of figure out whether or not, there was.
Mayor, I'm hearing this clicking noise. What is that?
Sorry.
Thank you.
So heating degree day and cooling degree day kind of measure, for heating degree day, measure how cold the temperature was on a given day during a period. And so if you consider, if you are walking in your house and you're walking on a flat floor, just on first floor, you're trying to keep pace with maybe 3 feet a second, you're not expending as much energy as if you were trying to climb upstairs and trying to keep pace 3 feet per second. When you go upstairs, your heart rate rises, you have to expend more energy just to keep pace, the same pace as you were walking on a flat floor. So that analogy kind of explains, a lot of customers complain why, well, I haven't changed my thermostat. I have not. The thermostat has been consistently stay at the same temperature, but why is my bill rising? Well, when it gets colder outside, the system has to run longer just to stay at the same temperature. So that's kind of thing, like if you keep the same pace that you're walking upstairs, then you will expend more energy to go up versus if you just go on the flat floor and just go normal pace. So thermostats the same way. They have to keep, in order to keep the inside temperature the same, and when outside is cold, you have to run a lot longer. And when it's run longer, it consumes a lot more energy. So this slide right here kind of show you the heating degree day. So on the black dot, all the black dot you see is the average daily temperature. The red line is the average temperature for the last 20 years. And then the blue bar is basically heating degree day information. If you look between, basically if you just focus on how many black dot is above the line and below the line, you can see that between the period of December and the 1st through January 31st, there was a lot of black dot. It was freezing. And the heating degree day data in the blue bar can show that, particularly in January, it was so cold that it was, if you have electric heat system, it was running pretty much a lot. And so basically, if you are looking at your consumption, the resident probably feel double whammy because number one, we raised rate, but number two, it was also cold that causing the electric consumption to be much higher than normal. So this is the weather data that you are seeing and between December and January. So again, this is this kind of show you a generic household with electric heating, and what you see the red bar is for electric heat. The blue bar is for cooling. Now, in any household, the two highest consumption cause are heating and cooling. So in the summer, it obviously be cooling that's drive your consumption up, and in the winter, it'd be the heating if you have electric heat. And so what you see right here is between December, January, February, the consumption is really high because of that electric heating. So again, we only try to raise our rate at 10.5%, but essentially there's external factor that we can't control. That such as is the weather. The weather is really the temperature outside that's really driving the additional magnitude of pain that customers seeing. And last slide is really example of a customer where, you can see that in this example, between the period of January 22 to February 2023, you can see that where we have circle, the left is electric heating, and between January and then February, and then you got July being the high consumption because of AC, and so the left-hand side is electric heating with cooling, and the right-hand side just electric cooling only with gas heat. And so you can see that the difference is that in this right-hand side with just electric cooling, you see a heightened consumption in the summer, but not so much in the winter. So with that, we hope that we have been able to share with you insights to kind of explain the pain that residential customer have been seeing this last month or two. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Mr. City Manager.
I want to thank ECG for coming this evening. And Mayor, one of the reasons, and council members, we had them to come is they have a context across nearly 50 cities across the state. And so we wanted them to be able to share that what we've seen here in Fairburn isn't unique. They see this across most of the cities in the state that they work with, the same usage patterns, the same consumption patterns. Those weather impacts are significant, and it's not just in Fairburn. The other thing I wanted to mention is we have looked across our database of nearly 6,000 customers, and we saw these impacts across the database in the city. We had multiple citizens to experience higher bills in that same time frame. There are not always direct comparisons between one home and another or one community and another based on a number of factors. One which is very prevalent is we have communities that are gas and electric. We have other communities that are all electric. If you pull bills from those two communities, they're going to be significantly different because one community is running all electric, the other supplements some of their heat, their hot water heater, with gas. And so oftentimes when someone says, well, I talked to my neighbor who lives over there, and their bill looked different from mine, any number of factors can contribute to that. We understand the impacts that this has to residents, and one of the reasons we took the approach after a long study with ECG was we did everything we could to moderate these increases. The MCT fund, and Chow can explain this better than I can, but it is, could you explain what the MCT funds are?
So the MCT stands for Municipal Competitive Trust. It is a city, the city of Fairburn saving account that was created by the money that's been collected in the early 90s in preparation for deregulation. At that time, Fairburn, along with multiple other cities, was looking at the PSC was doing natural gas deregulation. That means that your natural gas provider now, but that effort failed because essentially after that deregulation, people was complaining left and right, and so the PSC stopped the deregulation right away. But essentially, that MCT is the money that's saved from that time and bring forward. And city have been saving that money and hoping to only use it for the rainy day. And in this rate study, we did use some of that money because we are going to be experiencing a long period of extended shortfall. And so the city staff direct us to use some of that with your approval, obviously, just to moderate the magnitude of increase for the ratepayer.
The point to that is making every effort to think creatively. We used approximately $1 million out of that MCT fund to supplement the rate increases so that what is 8% wouldn't have been 12% or 15%. Now, the $2.7 million shortfall in the utility fund had to be supplemented by the general fund. That means we took general fund dollars collected from property taxes and used that to make the difference in the utility and electric fund. That $2.7 million is the same money we use to hire police officers and firefighters, senior programs, youth programs, economic development, planning and zoning. That's why that's not sustainable, because the taxpayers are still paying for the loss. anytime the electric fund is not making money and you take general fund money to balance that, that takes money from the day-to-day services that we provide to residents. And so that was the critical nature of it. And that's why I believe the council took a very deliberate approach after a significant amount of time, over a year of electric rate studies and water rate studies, and we moderated this. The initial suggestion to make the fund balance quickly was about a 25 to 30% increase. That never saw the light of day. As staff, we wouldn't bring you a recommendation of an increase like that. We know that's not sustainable for families, fixed income, but we had to make an adjustment to avoid the losses that were $2.7 million in the previous year. So I wanted to provide that context and also to let you know that ECG can give us a perspective that goes beyond not what's going on just in Fairburn, which is our main focus, but what we see in cities all across the state.
Members of council, is it? Did you finish? I'm sorry. Members of council, does anyone members of council have a question? Go ahead, Ms. Davis.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you so much for the graphs and everything. It really tells a story. Being that oftentimes we try to control the cost in our homes, and I have some personal hacks for my personal home that I do. Do you have any that you can share that we may think we're saving money by doing this? And I'll give you for instance, because I used to do this until I was told you're not saving any money doing this. In fact, you're causing it to work longer and harder. Closing off doors, shutting off vents in certain rooms, and only leaving the rooms that you like your bedroom, maybe a bathroom or a kitchen. Does that minimize, tell me what you think in reference to trying to do that to save energy?
So I'm not familiar with the method. I think I have done that before, even my house, but I was told not to. So I'm not really an engineer, but I do think that the system is designed so that it takes pressure and temperature from individual room and trying to come up with the balanced approach. Yeah. And if you take control out of the system and trying to do it yourself, then, are you more efficient than the machine? But I'm not an engineer by trade, so I can't tell you. But what I will share with the city manager, and city manager can distribute to you, is maybe some energy saving tip from the Department of Energy and all the place that I can pass on to the city manager to distribute to the rest of resident and customer.
Yeah.
What I would add to that, and thank you for that question, currently on the utilities website, there is a link to utility safety tips. It is a 9-page document that is full of recommendations, things you can do, efforts that you can make in your own home to try to mitigate your energy costs. And so anyone who would like that information, it is currently on the city's website. If you go to the utility department and click on water, sewer, and electric rates, at the bottom of that page, there's a link that says click here for energy saving tips.
Great.
And if you click there, there's a 9-page document with a lot of information that we, I believe, pull from the information.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Fellows, because I just wanted our citizens to know there are some ways that you could minimize. I know I have my ways at home, I do. Thank you.
Any other member of council?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Owen.
Because there are some distinct differences in what our city administrator talked about, the communities and the usage and the types of energy that they use. I want to focus on slide 3. This is in relate to the increase, specific to some of what constituents want to know. If the increase was 8% for 2004, was it possible that there were errors made internally with the calculation? We have a community, Magnolia community residents were raising concerns about the variations. Was it a 10% increase or 11% for some residents, or did everyone receive like that same increase?
So I could possibly say that anyone with the, I think when we did the calculation, anyone from 1,000 kilowatt and up was 10.5%. it varies to a lesser degree for the lesser consumption. But I think what you are seeing I'm sorry, I forgot the community name, but essentially is the function of consumption when you get cold weather and with electric heat, and it's a double whammy effect. It's again, but it's, you know, if you compare, in a perfect world, if you compare household consumption in December and it was the same consumption in January, then you would see about 10.5%, but that's not really what you're seeing because of the weather. There's not really an apple-to-apple comparison because the temperature.
Okay, my next question will be probably more internally, to try to get an understanding about when the rates were applied. But were the rates checked or rechecked, approved by ECG before the billing began? And just, once again, these are questions that constituents have sent me. I know it's going to cause us to have some research, and so I'll be willing to wait for, you know, our administrator to get back with me on this. On our collection, what percentage of delinquent accounts needs to be collected to offset this shortfall? And how would it be possible to provide, or if it would be possible to provide some of that data at our next council meeting? The other question that was raised was, how will the discrepancies or inaccuracies, if they occurred, how will they be addressed? And for example, there was a concern that the beginning of the increase should have occurred January 1st. However, some residents reached out and stated that they saw charges with the new rate as early as December. Slide 5, because I wanted to prepare for this, so I went through the slides as much as possible after talking with constituents to try to get a consensus of what were the challenges. ECG, when Voltage 5 goes live, is it guaranteed that ECG cities will see a rate reduction since all members use lesser of other commodities? So if so, can you briefly explain that? I'm just trying to learn how all of this works as well.
That's in reference to Vogel. When it fully comes online, she's wondering, will that reduce the cost of energy to the city?
So I'm not aware the city of Fairburn was a part of that Vogel project, even though it is said on the news at MEAC City. But in reality, each city decide on their own how much they subscribe to that Vogel project. And they alone bear the cost of that Vogel. So if City of Fairburn, and I'm not aware City of Fairburn is involved in that project for Vogel 3 and 4, then there'll be no additional cost from Vogel, nor decrease in cost from Vogel 3 and 4, simply because you're not part of that project.
So the city is a part of that project, and so the question is for
delay. Is it delay?
Yeah, so it is delayed, but when it comes online, would it be your expectation that it would lead to an increase or a decrease for the city's rates?
So this is where I have to reach my crystal ball, and I don't have a good crystal ball, because I think the city of Fairburn may have decided to delay that Vogel 3 and 4, taking that energy until 2039, 2040 period. Now, a lot of that is, well, if you look at today, look at the generation resource today, you have various resources, the Vogel 1 and 2, you got Hatch 1 and 2, the share, which is coal, and then gas unit. A lot of that, 20 years from now, would they be allowed to run? So that would determine whether or not Vogel 3 and 4 are going to help you lower costs. Right now, the next election, whoever in the White House may decide whether or not they're going to come down hard on the coal, or they may not. Coal and gas are those emitting resource, carbon emitting resource, and so the question become, what's going to happen to those resources when the next administration come in? Are they going to come down harsh, meaning putting more pollution control, forcing more pollution control on those units? Then that would force additional retirement, early retirement of those units. But if that's not happening, then maybe something else will happen then. And so I don't really have a good feel for what's going to happen in 20-something years, but a lot of that depends on whether or not the existing resource will continue to be used or allowed to be used by the federal government to continue to provide low-cost energy to the city.
So to one of the other questions, Councilwoman Hudson, you asked, did ECG play a role in the implementation of the rates? And the answer to that is yes. Cho specifically worked with our staff to implement the rates into the system to ensure that they were accurate. It is a very lengthy process. There are multiple rate categories, and I would never discount the possibility of human error. As long as people are involved, there's always the chance there could be a mistake. We were very deliberate in having Cho work with our staff. They went over it a number of times. We've gone back and looked at it several additional times since then, since we've heard the concerns from our community. We have not yet found any errors that would have made a difference in someone's bill, that would have raised someone's bill significantly. But we will continue to look because, again, as long as humans are involved, I would never tell you there's not a possibility that someone could have hit the wrong key on a computer, clicked the wrong mouse. And so we are constantly checking to make sure. As of today, we have not seen any errors that would explain or cause someone's bill to be higher. With that said, we'll continue to look. You also had a question in reference to delinquent accounts. Would it offset the amount that we owe? And so if I understood your question correctly, are you talking about the loss that we described in the previous year, the 2.7 million?
Yeah, I actually wanted you know, this was after this, get some numbers on what that looks like, right? And then, you know, because of course the city have to have revenue, what would it look like to offset that shortfall? Because we want to make sure that we're addressing, if possible, there was someone that may have had an early rate building, that we can go ahead and nip it in the bud as much as possible, because the purpose of this increase was for us to make sure that we didn't fall short. And so, but we still, you know, I want to make sure that the questions are answered. And I saw that Mr. Phillips has met with the communities, try to give as much input as possible. But the hot question is, if we find those discrepancies, will the bills be prorated?
Absolutely. Anytime there's an error, and we've done this prior to the rate increase, Councilwoman Hudson, anytime we find a discrepancy, it's immediately corrected and a credit is offered. We've done that regularly throughout the process. So there are kind of two different related things in your question. When it talks about the $2.7 million that was a deficit, that is primarily due to the cost of power being much more than what we were charging for power. And so that's one thing. Delinquent accounts is a related but separate thing. We have a number of delinquent accounts. And to be very transparent, coming out of the pandemic and even today with the rate increase, we have not implemented the city standard bill policy, which is 7 days in arrears, you're cut off. We haven't done that intentionally, because we understand first the impact of the pandemic had, and though we're reasonably coming out of that now, with our rates being where they were on the precipice of a rate increase, even today, we have not applied that policy as written, because if we did, there'd be a lot of people in the middle of the winter without power. And we made a conscious decision not to do that. At some point, we will come to you as council and say, we need to move back to that policy. I can't tell you when that will be. We're trying to get through this winter period, trying to get through the rate increase and let things settle in. But that is the standard bill policy that was in place prior to this administration. It's always been in place. So there are some delinquent accounts. We've also taken a step towards payment plans and being more liberal with payment plans to allow people to catch up. And in the past, we've done utility assistance, and it's things that we can look at in the future. So we're not insensitive to the fact that any change we make, even when it's necessary, it's what people call a kitchen table issue. You have to pay bills. We never lose sight of that. And that's why we tried the best we could to moderate this increase. It's still an increase, but we tried to be thoughtful even creative in pulling those MCT funds into the mix so that it would, and by the way, the city had not been using those MCT funds in that way in the past. And so with the help of ECG, we saw that as a creative way to say, that'll keep the percentage of the increase lower if we hadn't done that. And so, again, an increase is an increase, and we understand that, but we've tried to be reasonable about our approach to this.
Just one brief comment. I just want our constituents to know that this has impacted my household as well. I have experienced the city working with me, as Mr. Phillips said, in making the payment arrangements. I wasn't a part of council when this happened, but I take ownership of everything that has occurred and committed to working towards solutions to make sure that we address this. I think for the most part, I said before, I'll say it again, that what I would like to do better and what we can do better is be proactive and educate our community before the increases occur, working with our strategic partners to identify resources that can offset or subsidize the increases, and having ongoing education about how to minimize, that good stuff that you just shared with us. I think all of those are plus. It's a plus that we have it on the website. And so I can say, let's move forward. Let's see what we can resolve. But I'm telling y'all, I'm in the fire with you, and it's uncomfortable.
Any other members of council? Yeah, Mr. Whitmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for a little clarity, I just happen to be one of 3 council people that visited Vogel 3 and 4. And 3 was up and operational, and of course there's been a delay in Vogel 4. But the one thing that I took out of that visit, and also listening to the presentation, is that as we move forward, we already have projected businesses that's going to be coming into the area. So therefore, when Vogel 4 comes on, a lot of that energy production will be focused on that area, depending on how much the city of Fairburn said that they would take on. And that being said, with energy the way it is going up rapidly, we are being very conservative and conscious about what we will say that we need or don't need from Vogel 4. That being said, I had a conversation with a citizen today, and it was interesting. They belong to another EMC outside of the city of Fairburn, but they live in the city of Fairburn. And when asked some questions, they shared with me that their utility bill actually doubled. And once they realized it, what they did is they looked at the kilowatt hours that was used, all right, and then they said, well, what am I going to do about this? And they had a smart thermostat. So they had the smart thermostat set at 68. But of course, they noticed with those low temperatures, and I wrote down here and I counted your dots, and you had 35 days below the 20-year average during the period of December 23 and January 24, which ties into what was being shared with pressing current staff and asking about days of low temperatures and so on and so forth. But the point that I would like to make is that what that particular homeowner did was they lowered that 68 down to 64 because they realized that the system was continuously running, trying to get it up to 68. And understanding airflow within a structure, and again, to answer your question, Mayor Pro Tem, when you restrict airflow.
You a Mayor Pro Tem. You a Mayor Pro Tem.
That was you.
Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm sorry.
You're not being prophetic, are you?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm sorry. But, wow, it's amazing.
Long day.
Yeah, it has
Long
been.
day.
But at any rate, when you do restrict the airflow within the dwelling, because you have your fresh air coming in and then you pull out, as well as your heated air and everything else, it does cause imbalance. And your system works harder because of that imbalance. Okay? But in reference to the story that I was sharing, by reducing the smart thermostat from 68 to 64, all right, it did help. All right, and that was really key for me in hearing that, because I have received a lot of phone calls as well, and I probably called Mr. Phillips on a number of occasions and looking at things that I was thinking that maybe we should be looking at and addressing, and they did review that, but did not find anything. So I appreciate your due diligence in that as well, Mr. Phillips. But again, I just wanted to share that information in reference to the nuclear plant, because when it does come online, we have to make sure we use what we say that we want to receive. Otherwise, there will be a healthy penalty in not being able to distribute that energy.
Thank you for that point.
Any other members of council?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm a believer in repetition, so hearing the presentation again, you hear things differently, or you are provided with more clarity as a result of hearing it again. And one of the key things that you talked about, and Mayor Pro Tem just references as well, the constant running of your unit to maintain that temperature that you've set. Now, we've been taught for decades that 68 was the temperature to set for quote-unquote energy efficiency. Now, that's cold to me, okay? Now, 64, there is no way that I'm gonna do that, right? Yeah, so because then now we're talking borderline health issues. That is too cold in your house. So that maybe when you're not there, fine, but you know, when you're there, that is not comfortable. And then you have other issues on the other end. But nonetheless, the point you made is about the constant running of the unit to maintain the temperature, whatever you've set. And when it is cold outside, it runs more frequently in order to keep the 68. One of the things that that just dawned on me while you were talking is the trend in construction of houses, that more and more subdivisions are electrical only, that gas is considered a pollutant, if you will, and the wave of the future is to minimize and eliminate gas, probably minimize. But if many of you remember the controversy about the gas stove, you know, because running a gas stove, you're polluting your space. Well, if the trend is for everything to be electric, then the increase that we're seeing now, is small in comparison to what it's going to be when everything in our houses are electric. With that being said, then, that means we've got to start developing programs to help mitigate that, because that now will become unaffordable when you have an entire electrical house. City of Fairburn, providing its own electrical service. We've got to now provide some of the other wraparound services to help support. We've talked about the budget billing. That's in place. We need to do that. We've talked about developing what I call, borrowing from Greystone, Operation Roundup, meaning those who can pay are willing to pay a few cents more to put in a pool to have those who cannot pay. The city of Fairburn needs to, as Councilwoman Hudson mentioned, about providing more education. But that means going out, doing energy audits, and helping to educate our residents in their own space on how they can, save energy. It also speaks to solar. Mayor Pro Tem is a user of solar on his house, right? That means the city of Fairburn and ECG, in communicating with all of the other cities, electric cities, we need to be looking at and talking significantly and having a plan in place for solar energy and all of the other green energies that are out there. You talked about administrations. The current administration that's what he's proposing. I mean, he's a proponent of that. And he's put money behind that. We need to take advantage of that in educating, all of our residents about that. So, in closing, I will just say, the wave of the future, all of the new subdivisions that are coming on, many of the houses that have been built in the last 10 to 15 years are all electrical. And that's why there's a substantial increase in usage. And we've got to figure out a way to mitigate that. Otherwise, it's going to be, it's already unaffordable, depending on who you ask. But it really is going to be unaffordable for everybody. So it is incumbent upon us, you as our partner, and we as a city, to now start talking about those green energy programs to help our residents to save on electric consumption. Thank you, but I appreciate the presentation.
Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And just as one addition to, and I wasn't going to bring up solar energy, but my colleague did, and I can tell you that in a 5,500 square foot dwelling, when I moved down here, that was my major concern because the house is 100% electric. And I did enough study while I was in the previous state, so I understood the good that solar would provide for me. And yes, I did embark upon that. And even so, I still look at other avenues to continue to reduce my energy consumption. For a house that has over 65 windows, I replaced over half of them already. All right, and I'm looking at doing the other half towards the end of the year, early part of next year, because again, those E-rated windows with the tint, okay, is stopping those rays from coming in and causing problems as well. So there's a lot of information that is out there that can help us all when it comes to utility rates dealing with 100% electric households. And again, Mr. Phillips, I think you already started, but some of those additional things that can be done, I think we talked about things that we observed when we were out west on one of our trips, and those are good. I mean, they have some very good information. Smart houses, along with thermostats and everything else. So anything and everything that we can share from the standpoint of this administration to assist our citizens in considering ways of reducing their energy consumption would be great. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to just mention as we prepare to go into our regular meeting right at 7 o'clock. The clock is behind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. What I'd like to do, there's a few people here that probably want to speak, regarding the energy issue or the rate hike. I'm going to ask you, because we have a public hearing, I want to ask the people, please, we don't want to mix the two up, so do a public comment, because that part is designed for anyone, whatever concern, issue, totally unrelated to energy or anything. We use that part of the meeting for public comment, if you will, if you have concern dealing with energy or any other concern. But as it relates to the item that's on here that has a public hearing, the data center, I'm going to ask if you're going to speak about the data center please, we're gonna do that during the public hearing portion of that, during that I just wanna make sure we're clear about that. So that way, again, if you wanna speak during public comment, please, any issue other than the data center, I want to try to make sure I keep them totally separate. So we'll start at 7 o'clock on the nose. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. we're gonna get ready to bring. Yeah. Hold on one second.
No, I ain't finished.
She's here. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna bring our meeting to order. Thank you. At this time, Ms. James, would you please call the roll to the council?
Yes, the Honorable Mayor Pro Tem James Whitmore,
Present.
the Honorable Linda J. Davis,
Present.
the Honorable Samantha Hudson,
Present.
the Honorable Alex Heath is absent, the Honorable Hattie Portis Jones,
Present.
the Honorable Ulysses J. Smallwood.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, for everyone that can stand, would you please stand for our invocation? Pastor Gary Taylor from Open Word Christian Ministries will give us the honor. Thank you, sir.
Lord, thank you, first of all, for this wonderful day that you blessed us with. As this meeting starts, we thank you for wisdom and guidance for mayor and council, for the health and wellness of our dear city. We thank you that you will lead them in everything that they do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Presentation. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen.
Next, we will have presentations. Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Just want to read a statement right now in light of a presentation we just heard and some concerns by some of our residents, some decisions that were made by myself and the city administration. So we just want to read it into the record so that we can be real clear and it'll be posted later for everyone to understand it. After conducting over a year-long of due diligence, engaging subject matter experts, and looking into multiple options and scenarios, the city made the decision to raise utility rates for the first time in over a decade. This decision was a financial necessity due to the consistent rising costs of power, water, and sewer, and the need to ensure financial stability of the utility fund and the city of Fairburn as a whole. We recognize that even necessary rate increases impact our citizens. In an effort to reduce the impact to our residents, the city has taken several steps throughout the year and will take several more. We have offered payment options for those who request them. We have not suspended services to accounts that are more than 7 days delinquent, as the city standards utility payment policy requires. We offered a Phase 1 utility assistance program that provided $250,000 of funding to those with delinquent accounts. We offer average monthly billing to provide a consistent monthly payment amount for those who request it. This gives another option for residents to handle their utility bills during the winter and summer seasonal peaks. In addition, what we will do, effective for the next complete billing cycle, we will offer a one-time 10% discount to all active residential utility accounts, which equates to 6,000 accounts. We will also initiate Phase 2 of the Utility Assistance Program effective May the 1st to provide an additional $150,000 in utility assistance for payments, a total of over $400,000 in the last 6 months. Additional information will be posted to the city's website, social media platforms, and emails and texts. If you have not done so, please visit the city's website and sign up for notifications via email and or text. Again, we understand that every decision the city makes impacts our citizens and that we do everything possible to create the best possible outcomes. Just wanted to put that into the record. And so again, that information will be available on our website very soon. At this time, we're going to do another presentation. So I'm going to ask the members of council, I need you to come down here with me, if you will, for this presentation.
Can I get a copy of that letter, please? Thank you.
I need to move this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, we are recognizing the grantees from the first round of the City of Fairburn Small Business Development Grant Program for eligibility in receiving funds ranging from $5,000 to $25,000 in grant categories that included small business incubator, payroll assistance, rental assistance, relocation assistance, and capital improvement. The Small Business Development Grant Program was formulated to address the negative impacts of COVID-19 on small businesses who were impacted from the global pandemic. While many Fairburn businesses were resilient in maintaining operations, ongoing effects of COVID impacted requiring relief and assistance. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 was created to build a bridge toward economic recovery and to invest in diverse communities and stabilize local economies. We celebrate and salute this evening's recipients for their adaptability and for their resilience in becoming eligible. There were 75 applicants in round one. These 11 applicants were able to meet all of the eligibility requirements. So tonight we will present a recognition to each of these 11 candidates who received awards. I'm going to call their names. All of the applicants are not here, but we want to recognize those who are. South Fulton Studios, LLC, they received payroll assistance program. Two Ray Auto, LLC, they received a grant for capital improvement. Southside Premium Cigars received a grant for capital improvement. Handsome Hair Barbershop received an award for capital improvement. Heirloom Salon received an award for capital improvement. JNU LLC received an award for relocation assistance. Wood Party of Five LLC, DBA Judy's, received an award for relocation assistance. Conyers and Associates LLC, DBA Credentials USA, received an award for small business incubator. Fairway Foodies LLC received an award for capital improvements grants. And Crest Jewelers of Fairburn received an award for capital improvements grants. And also William H. Morrow received an award for small business incubator. Let's give them all a round of applause. So I do see Miss Smith, Miss Mika Smith, if you'll come forward. And she is the CEO of Heirlooms Salon. Mr. Richard Taylor, he is the CEO and operator of Fairway Foodies, which is also Atlanta Swing. The owner-operator of Crest Jeweler, I believe he is here as well. Yes, Mr. David McDonald, he is the owner-operator of Crest Jewelers, an institution in Fairburn's downtown. I thought I saw the owners of Cigar Studio. Please come forward. Miss Southside Studios, Miss Chandi Holmes. Southside Premium Cigars. Please. Yes, I'm going to say that again. Southside Premium Cigars. That's right, Southside Premium Cigars. Yes. Congratulations. Two Ray Auto, LLC. No. Okay. Handsome Hair. Yes, ma'am. Miss Overton. I thought I saw you. Miss Overton, please come to the front. Handsome Hair Barbershop. Mr. John Wood, did I see you? No. No. I thought I saw Mr. Morrow. Mr. Morrow, please come on up. What about Dr. Bonds? Yes, Miss Dr. Bonds, please come on up, please. The CEO of Janu LLC. Very nice to see you, Dr. Bonds. Okay. Also, Miss Jacqueline Dulce, CEO of South Fulton Studios. Congratulations. Did we miss anyone? So we want to give them another thunderous applause for their efforts. These are our small businesses. And an outside company who took them through a rigorous vetting process. So they met all of the standards of eligibility. So we are grateful, and we, again, celebrate all of their efforts. So Mayor and Council, we present you, Mr. Phillips presents you, and Ms. Chris, with $350,000, which goes to these small businesses. Yep.
I heard my phone ringing up here. I did. Well, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we will have the adoption of the City Council agenda. Members of council, you have before the printed agenda. Can I entertain a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second.
Who made the second?
Mr. Smallwood.
Smallwood.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this point, we're going to come into our public comment section. Again, for those that may have not been here, because we have a public hearing for those that wants to speak outside of the data center, anything other than the data center, please. The data center, let me do it reverse. If you're going to speak about the data center, we're going to have a public hearing. Please bring your comments during that period. If you have any other subject matter, please use the public comment section. And so now 30 minutes will be allocated for public comment. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. However, a speaker may transfer his or her 3 minutes to another speaker, but no speaker shall be permitted to speak for more than 6 minutes. Further, in the event, if more than 10 speakers, how many speakers we have, Ms. James?
Have one speaker.
One speaker, okay, so issues raised at this time are generally referred to the city administrator for review. Responses will be provided at a later date. Would you please go ahead and call our first speaker?
Sheree Freeman, could you change the clock to 3 minutes, please?
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor and Council and residents of Fairburn. I am truly concerned.
Hold on one second, Mr. Freeman, I'm trying to let him set that clock. Oh, okay.
I got her. She can start.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm truly concerned about the rate increase. As it has been stated, there are accounts that are deficient, people who are unable to pay their utility bills, and this 8% overall increase is just going to make things worse for them. Asking people to turn their temperatures down to 64 is unspeakable. And because we pay for what, we know we pay for what we use. It's all based on usage, and yes, the weather does factor into it. I just feel that there's been neglect here, and if there is fairness, people pay their utility bills. Some people pay late, some people pay early, some people pay on time. But if you're not collecting and you're not enforcing your own rules, then where do we stand? And where is the deficiency? You're talking about $2.4 million in the hole. How did that come about? And why has it taken 12 years for us to all of a sudden see we need to have an increase? I'm sure ECG and MEAG inform the city when they're increasing their rates. So why is it we are just being told that our rates are going to increase in such a fashion? It's kind of mind-boggling, and I'd like the council to think about it and think about the people that it will affect. Because if they can't pay their bills now, what are they going to do in the future? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the approval of the city council meeting minutes that commenced on February the 26th, 2026. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for February 26, 2024 minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next, a request for the approval of the minutes for the meeting that commenced on March the 4th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. Any comments by council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, we'll go to our first item.
Our first item is a public hearing, data center text amendment. Recommendation is for mayor and council approval of an ordinance to amend chapter 80 zoning, article 6, administrative permits and use permits, section 8241 data centers in order to allow for data centers with the use permit to provide and to repeal conflicting ordinances. This is from planning and zoning. This is a public hearing.
At this point, Ms. Ross, at this point, I can open a public hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Members of council, can I entertain a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Okay, the public hearing is still open from the
Oh,
last.
it was opening from it was continuous.
It continued from the last meeting, so the public
So at
hearing
this
is
point, I can
already
just ask people that want to speak, they can come up. Okay, at this point,
Presentation.
okay, I'm good.
Okay.
You got more to present, right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Just to kind of give you an overview of data centers, they have become very popular as of late. The primary data center markets in the U.S. are located in North Virginia, Dallas, North Carolina, Atlanta, Chicago, and Portland. In terms of energy consumption, data centers rely heavily on a large amount of electricity. The amount is, although there's not a consistency across the board, a data center can use, that has over 400,000 square feet, can likely have a capacity of 48 megawatts to 60 megawatts. Since to give you sort of the equivalent of that, in Virginia, they did provide some information that says roughly about 250 homes use approximately 1 megawatt. In terms of water, they use a significant amount of water for the cooling, to control the heat, to produce the massive facilities. They have to run pretty much 24 hours a day, so there's a lot of water usage. Some of the benefits of data centers include a lot of increase in terms of capacity and access to internet. Data centers are really popular in certain areas in Atlanta area like Alpharetta. So when we started to look at proposed text amendment, we looked at cities that were very successful and had them with very little complaints. And we also looked at some areas that had some, significant issues and challenges. So we wanted to really put together something that was balanced. We also talked to some folks that build data centers. There are quite a few folks that are interested in building a data center in Fairburn, Georgia. So we had stakeholders from all sides of the issue. Of course, once we got some feedback from the data center, they did request a few changes to what was originally submitted. One of those was just information regarding the occupant, because a lot of times when they're doing the concept, they don't necessarily know who that is. They also, because they don't have the building plans completed, they may not know the exact amount of usage. So they wanted to make sure that that part was removed. One thing I think that's really critically important from speaking to some communities that had challenges was the sound aspect. Some community members have complained of a humming sound. So I think having some sort of sound study is critical to this, depending on where it's located. And then also making sure that we don't get what a lot of communities have gotten, which is a large warehouse-looking facility that doesn't really add to the architectural elevations in the area. Because the focus for data centers is really making sure that it's operational. The aesthetics can sometimes become secondary to that. So the same way we do with any other new business that's coming to the city, we want to make sure that everything looks nice, that the elevations are great, so we have some standards that are kind of specific to those. Some of the feedback that we received from data center was that they don't particularly need a lot of parking. So the initial recommendation, they asked us to loosen that a little bit, and that made perfect sense. Just to kind of give you an example of what it looks like. And that's the quick facts that I mentioned about energy and water and location. We started off looking at Fairfax, Virginia. We also looked at the regulations in Alpharetta, and that really gave us a framework to really build from. We started off with a definition for a data center, and just overview of some of the changes from what was originally submitted. I went over those fairly quickly, but just wanted to make sure that you had an overview of that. This would not be something that is permitted by right. The use permit process would be a part of any application, and they could only be considered in areas that had either light industrial or heavy industrial zoning designations. And we also have some regulations similar to those that are in Alpharetta that says no data center shall be located within 100 feet of a collector or local roadway. And we have that regulations because typically residential developments are on local roadways, so we want to make sure that there's sufficient distance. Is there any questions for me?
Okay. At this point, Ms. Ross, I guess in this case, I would do the public hearing portion of it and then come back to council for anybody that have questions.
Those that are
In support first. Is there anyone here that wish to speak in support of this item? Please come forward. Okay. Okay, I thought he was getting up. Okay. Is there anyone here that wish to speak in opposition of the item? Please come forward. Seeing none, I can officially close the public hearing. Members of council, can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. And so at this point, I bring the item to the floor for members of council that want to have a comment. Item has already been read, members of council. At this point, the item is technically on the floor. I just want to make sure I'm doing it correct. Okay.
You can just call at this point
approve or whatever.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Ms. Gaines?
Yeah, you just need a motion
Okay.
whether you want to.
Members of council, can I entertain a motion for this data center?
Read it again.
Okay. The data center, recommendation of mayor and council approval of an ordinance to amend the chapter 80 zoning article, administrative permits and use permits, section 80-241, data centers in order to allow for data centers with a use permit to provide for service, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide an effective date for other purposes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments by council?
I do.
Go ahead, yes, ma'am.
The data center, as I understand, is going to need a lot of power to run. Now, I know we may not be able to provide that power. I think I will want to know about if Georgia Power will be involved with securing their power. I know in East Point, Georgia Power does work with that particular data center to make sure. It's a great revenue getter for the franchise tax. I'm just cautious and concerned about our infrastructure and any development at this time outside of water and sewer. So it wouldn't be that I would not be for it, but at a later date. Now the priority, it just leads me to look at our infrastructure all more. And I know this is a text amendment, but I just want to put that out there, that I want us to be really, really sensitive and focused on the priorities of what's developing in Fairburn and how it's impacting our infrastructure.
And one of the requirements for the text is a letter from the utility area, so we'll know which area, which utility company is supplying or could potentially be supplying electricity, water, sewer to the site.
Okay, that's all I have.
Go ahead, did you have something, sir?
Councilwoman Hudson, to your point, depending on the geographic location of the proposed data center, oftentimes it results in what is referred to as customer choice, where they have the option to choose which utility company based on location they'd like to service their business. All of those would come back under the umbrella of this text amendment to this council for approval as to a specific project. And so we'll certainly keep all of those suggestions that you just made in mind, but there will be an opportunity at the time that is appropriate for a specific data center to be considered. It comes back to the mayor and council for final approval.
Okay.
Any other members of council got a question? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Next item is the hotel plat. This request for mayor and council approval of the final plat for the home hotel based on the criteria outlined in chapter 77 and analysis of those provisions.
Hello again. The site is located at 7995 Sonoya Road. It's right behind the Cracker Barrel. It is a proposed hotel. The applicant is here and available to answer any questions. They have submitted the plat. It meets all of our required conditions at this point. If there are no questions for staff, the applicant is available.
Members of council, you have before you the item that was read about the hotel plat. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Any questions by council?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, staff or the applicant, could you describe the project for the record?
Sir, could you
Give the address,
come on up, sir?
and how large a hotel, what amenities it might have, who's the parent hoteler of this hotel?
So my name is Daryl Baker, and I represent Absalon Hospitality. You actually, in the city of Fairburn, have several other hotels that they own. The Holiday Inn behind Package Depot, the new Package Depot, they own that. And I believe they own one over by the Wendy's, right by the interstate. Great operator. They actually also, for instance, if you just jump across into Fayette County, Peachtree City alone, I think they own the Crown Plaza, they own the Fairfield Inn Suites, and they own, I believe, the new Residence Inn that's under construction right now. Actually, the president of the company, Raj Patel, lives just across the line, straight across in that subdivision from Kirkley Road. and is through this area quite a bit. Good operator, like I said. This is a Best Western product, if I remember. It's called At Home. It's a new concept. I believe there was 180 rooms. Do you remember off the top of your head exactly how many? To be honest with you, I don't remember. It's in the report here. It is nice hotel. I know that they've approved at P&Z the concept plan, and tonight is the plat. What I can explain to you on the plat is this was a large piece of land in the very beginning that encompasses now the, I guess it's the QT, Cracker Barrel, the car wash, the storage facility, and then there's a little over 4 acres left, but part of that 4 acres is there's a large master retention pond. And so the purpose of this plat is to subdivide the retention pond that is duly cared for under easement agreement by all the landowners from the actual hotel track. I believe if you look at the submittal package that the city has that they approved at Planning and Zoning, it shows the elevations, it shows the number of rooms, shows the room layouts, shows everything, the parking lot layouts, lights, everything is in that package. And I would say this, we work pretty closely with staff, planning staff, throughout the process. And I'll tell you, I've been doing this 33 years across most of the jurisdictions here, from City Atlanta, Gwinnett County, Cobb County, Fayette, Henry, Spalding, I mean, on and on and on. And I will tell you, your planning staff is second to none. They're thorough. They were very professional. They were very helpful. Of course, I know Denise from another jurisdiction, have worked with her for quite a while, but you really do have a great staff in your planning and zoning department. So
It's 120 rooms.
120 rooms.
Follow-up question. So the request is to detach or separate the detention pond from the plot where the hotel will be built. Am I correct to assume then that the hotel in a separate agreement will be part of the maintenance of the pond with the other businesses that are now currently maintaining it?
Yes, ma'am. There's actually, whether it's called an REA or an OEA, there's an operating easement agreement that each of those tenants are party to, where they have to provide funds that maintains the upkeep of that pond for perpetuity.
Yes. All right, thank you so much.
Any other member of the council?
I think y'all know what my whole spiel would be.
Go ahead. She got it.
It'll be very brief. We want your business. We need your business. But we need you to be supported and make sure that your business can run efficiently because our infrastructure is weak. You are aware of that, right? We're having some challenges. We also need businesses that support reinvestment back in our community because the taxpayers alone, we just can't do it all. So that's my only issue. I love Best Western product. I'm very familiar with in the Midwest, run rain real big in the Midwest. And so those are always my concerns, and Mr. Phillips is going to keep hearing it. We want to make sure that we're doing good and right by our businesses, but we got some housekeeping that we got to take care of.
You do have the benefit, though, of that hotel and tourism tax on top of the property tax and the sales tax, so that helps. Now, I will say this, and I'm not sure if you know this. Of course, you know, right across the line into Fayette County, they were awarded the new U.S. National Soccer facility. Hotel-wise, that commitment that was made, that facility will reserve 60,000 hotel rooms a year. And with all of the additional business that's generated by those 60,000 rooms, they need an additional, from what I heard, 60,000 rooms a year. And I think Fayette County right now only has 9,000, something like that, some very, very small number of hotel rooms. So you know what's going to happen is, because that's just right down the road, I think you're going to get a lot of use from that facility into this community. So, and I do know that Raj and Absalon is big on their reinvestment back into their community.
Great, thank you.
Any other members of council? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
The next item is the new Chick-fil-A plat. Request for mayor and council approval of the final plat for the commercial development located along Sonoy Road based on the criteria outlined in chapter 77.
Hello again. The site is located between Fairburn Commons Shopping Center and the Fairburn Park and Ride. The site is currently zoned C2, General Commercial, and is located in the Highway 74 Overlay District. The site is approximately 2.63 acres. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the site into Track 1 and Track 2 to develop a new Chick-fil-A facility. It will be a drive-through restaurant and meet all of the requirements in our Highway 74 Overlay District. So it will have a significant dining area per our ordinance. If there are no questions for staff, the applicant is available to answer questions.
Yeah. Let me bring the item to the floor. And members of council, you have before you the item that's been read about the new Chick-fil-A plat. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. Any questions by council, excuse me?
Yes. The reasoning, well, the subdivide of plat, will Chick-fil-A use both plats, or are you subdividing for sale to someone else or for another purpose?
Come on up, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Nathan Fuss. I'm with Bowler Engineering on behalf of Chick-fil-A. So the proposal here is to subdivide this 2.63 acres from the overall tract, and Chick-fil-A will purchase this 2.63 acres, and the remaining 15 or 16 acres will remain with the seller.
That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Any other questions by council? Seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item.
The next item is the ordinance amending the City of Fairburn's fire protection and fire suppression requirements. It is a request for mayor and council's approval of an ordinance to amend chapter 14 and 29 of the Code of Ordinances of Fairburn, Georgia, to obtain certain amendments to the City of Fairburn's fire protection and fire suppression.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, the fire department is requesting Mayor and Council to approve an ordinance to amend, like City Clerk said, chapters 14 and 29 of the Code of Ordinance of Fairburn, Georgia, to adopt certain amendments and updates that are industry standard and best practices, especially pertaining to new and existing construction. So the fire department is asking for the updates, make it more safe, especially with your older buildings and existing construction.
Members of council, you have before you an ordinance amending the city, said Fairburn's fire protection and fire suppression requirements. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and properly second by Ms. Hudson. Is any questions or comments by council? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Next item is approval of the Fairburn Gateway and Community Connectivity LCI study. This is a request for mayor and council approval to award RFP 23-023 City of Fairburn Gateway and Connectivity LCI study to the Sizemore Group for the Atlanta Region Commission Grant Project.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this study is to build upon the LCI's planned proposed improvements to connect the education campus to downtown and across Broad Street to the south, updates to the Highway 29 Overlay District to allow for middle housing, trending restaurants, office and entertainment uses, and flexibility to allow for mixed-use developments and projects. It is recommended that there is approval of the award to the Sizemore Group. They were from the evaluation, they received the highest score from the committee.
Okay. Members of council, you have before you an item of the Gateway and Community LCI study. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
Any questions by council?
Yes, could you just state for the record exactly the focus of the study and what will be the end product?
So the LCI connectivity study is building upon the existing LCI downtown master plan. It is the next step. It is a tactical study to look at transportation, also pedestrian. The gateway looks at nodes of, in terms of how we connect the education campus with our education campus and our catalytic sites. The downtown master plan identified catalytic sites in terms of the Hudson Plaza, the education campus itself, and south of Broad. The education expansion will connect those nodes as well as deal with the missing middle, the housing that we looked at. So there will be a housing study. There will also a look at transportation. It will look at market study to provide market rate housing within the downtown area and bring the retail spacing that our downtown area is much needed. We identified roughly 25,000 to 30,000 retail square footage that is needed for our downtown area. So we're excited about this project. We believe that the team that has been identified has a clear understanding of their background. They worked on 6 West. They also worked on the Kennesaw LCI, which is a comparable project. They recently completed economic development strategic plan. The same group is also helping us to update our strategic plan, so we believe that they will be able to give us the deliverables that we need.
And does that include suggestions, recommendations, potential design for walkability?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. How long, I read in the presentation, 5 years, is that just for the study?
October 2025 is when this particular project is due. The deliverable for this tactical study is due.
October 2025?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right,
Go ahead, you still.
I'm done.
Anybody had a question for it? 2 things. I know what what you meant by missing middle. Could you explain that publicly, what that means, so that members of the public can? I just used that phrase in an interview, and I just want to make sure it's clear what that means.
So missing middle deals with housing that, in terms of our residents, there is a median housing that in terms of a residential housing that is missing from our downtown area. That particular housing provides what we need when we talk about grocery stores. There is a formula in which those retail establishments come into our downtown area. So that missing middle is what is needed to get the additional amenities that we want in our communities. So when we talk about missing middle, within our Fairburn downtown area, that is what's missing. We have a single family housing, we have apartment housing, so the missing middle deals with that diverse housing that is pretty much is what we're missing, what we're lacking.
Ms. Abernathy explained that very well. One other example that may drive this home is the missing middle often refers to that part of the housing market that connects to everyday working families that are often priced out of the traditional housing market in today's market. You're talking about police officers, teachers, middle managers that work every day, but in this housing market, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes are out of reach for many in the housing market. Missing middle also captures that part of our population that are, hardworking folks that go to work every day for whom the market is really challenging. So part of what this project will do is, in addition to everything Ms. Abernathy explained in attracting new rooftops to downtown and new businesses, it provides some solutions for those families that oftentimes are kind of pushed out of the current housing market because there isn't a missing middle that meets where they are in the market.
Okay. And my other question I had for you, you indicated that, and I'm not surprised, the Sizemore Group, I just happen to be, I participated in several evaluations of their request for proposals in two other governments. My question was going to be, what basically stood out about this firm that basically made them the recommendation vendor?
So the evaluation team had two competitive respondents to look at. Both had extensive experience. What the evaluation team was charged with looking at, what distinguished the groups, is relevant experience. The Sizemore Group had more relevant experience in terms of, if you looked at the notes, the scoring was very close, but in terms of the Sizemore Group, there was just more relevant experience in terms of LCI, in terms of the extensiveness of staff and resources. There was multiple LCI studies that they had conducted, multiple economic strategic plans that they had conducted. In terms of staffing, there was just an abundance of staff resources that outweighed the other applicant.
Okay. Members of council, anybody else has a question for this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Next item is agreement between Fulton County and the City of Fairburn for the Go Lightly Rain Garden and Green Space Project. This is a request for mayor and council approval of the agreement between Fulton County and the City of Fairburn in the amount of $315,000 for the Go Lightly Rain Garden and Green Space Project.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Evening.
The City of Fairburn was notified that the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, by and through its Department of Community Development, approved the award to the City of Fairburn for the Community Development Block Grant Funds in the amount of $315,000 for the Go Lightly Rain Garden and Green Space Project on February 7th, 2024. The proposed contract was received on February 21st, 2024. The project was in turn put out to bid on March 6, 2024, and the bid opening date is April 10th, 2024. In order to be reimbursed for $315,000 in upcoming construction costs, the agreement must be approved. As such, staff recommends mayor and council approve the agreement between Fulton County and the City of Fairburn in the amount of $315,000 for the Go Lightly Rain Garden and Green Space Project.
Members of council, you have before you the item that the city clerk read, in this case regarding the Go Lightly Garden and Green Space Project. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion is by Ms. Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Jones. Any questions are coming by council? Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead.
this is the question I've asked others. If you just explain for the record and for our listeners exactly what's that project. I want to reemphasize that it is a grant that the City of Fairburn has received due to the hard work of Mr. Thompson. So if you can just describe, what CDBG and why those funds are designated for the area it is designated.
We received CDBG funds for low to moderate income neighborhoods, so it was it's in a Lightning community, which is a blighted neighborhood. So we've been very successful over the last few years. In fact, over the last 4 years, we've received about $1.8 million. With this, it'll be $1.8 million in CDBG funding. Prior to the last 4 years, we received about $55,000 a year, so we've been actively pursuing supplemental funding since the kickoff of T-SPLOS 1. This project is pretty much like a nature trail with a pedestrian bridge over a creek, with slate trails and amenities for the community. It's going to be kind of a park amenity that's going to be turned over to the Park and Recreation Department for educational purposes.
And this is needed because of the topography?
Right, that land can't be really used for anything else because it's a stream running through it, so we're going to put a bridge, pedestrian bridge over that stream and kind of a slate trail around it, kind of nature trail, to take advantage of the existing ecology.
All right. Thank you so much.
Anybody else with a question? I just want to mention that I want to thank Mr. Thompson again personally, even from my last administration through Mayor Hirsch's administration, and now the last 2 years. This area is kind of a reminder of where I grew up. I made that no secret in 2004 when I stood in the middle of the street at 12 o'clock at night. Of course, I wasn't married then. And then I went over to that neighborhood just to look at what type of conditions and what was going on. The area is technically blighted, but I'm so proud of what the city of Fairburn has done through technically administration 3 now in the lighting community. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have not been over there recently, please go and look at some of the upgrades that's been made the last 12 years in this area, and I'm excited about what we're gonna do over the next 2 years with that area. I want to thank you personally, Mr. Thompson, for this has been kind of your sole proprietor, I guess, ownership. But I want to personally thank you for an area that's overlooked a lot in this period. And so this area it's amazing what the conversion that's happening. So I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you. Any other members of council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
The next item is a task order with Atlas Technical Consultants to design the Brooks Drive Extension Roadway Project. There's a request for mayor and council approval of the task order with Atlas to design the Brooks Drive Extension Roadway Project in an amount not to exceed $272,400.
Previous task order for deed research and survey along Brooks Drive with Atlas was approved on June 3rd, 2022. The purpose of that task order was to verify available right-of-way or the lack thereof on the proposed Brook Drive extension project. The results revealed that there is a gap in the right-of-way required to connect 2 road sections, the dead end at Ferndale, which terminates at the intersection of Fisher Street, and the dead end at the New Beginnings Senior Center. Therefore, the developer would not be able to construct the proposed secondary access on the behalf of the city because he didn't have the ability to acquire right-of-way or possibly condemn on behalf of the city. So the city has to take it upon themselves to design and construct that roadway. So on November 20th, 2023, the T-Splosh 2 project list was modified to change the name of the Brooks Drive project from widening and reconstruction of Brooks Drive to the Brooks Drive extension to accommodate the desired roadway. In doing so, we're now able to move forward in that project. So would ask that mayor and council approve the task order with Atlas to begin the design on that project.
Okay. Members of council, you have before you a task order with Atlas Technical Consultants to design the Brooks Drive Extension Roadway Project. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and properly second. Is there any questions or comments by council?
I have a
Yes, ma'am.
question. So we have ownership of the $272,000 to do this project because you said that the developer was unable to.
Well, they can't acquire right-of-way or condemn on behalf of the city, so
Okay,
they don't
okay.
have condemnation powers.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other question by council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Good.
That's the end of the agenda set for the financial. Next, we'll have the finance director monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
We present our financial report through the February 29th, 2024. I do want to note on slide 1, it is an error. It says at the end of the 4th month. It should say at the end of the 5th month.
Okay, thank you.
To date, the general fund has collected $17.3 million in revenue, and we have $8.1 million in general fund expenditures. That's 64% of our year-to-date budgeted revenues. As of February 29th, we expensed about 30% of our expense budget. Property and local option sales tax revenue for the general fund Real property tax represents about 38% of our revenue. Loss represents about 9% of our revenue. Just to further reiterate here, you can see a synopsis here of what we got. Our budget for revenues is $27,098,730. Year-to-date revenue is $17,405,604. A summary of revenues for the month of February. You can see at the very bottom how much we collected during the month. It's $1,546,251. Year-to-date, we've collected 64% of our budgeted revenues. To the next slide where we go department by department, you can see our 2024 budget for expenditures, $29,167,090. The year-to-date expenditures are $8,149,604. So we expensed about 30% of our expense budget. Property tax revenue. As you can see here, our property taxes were billed out at $12,567,979. Year-to-date, we have collected almost 96% of that. As most of you know, property taxes are due in the month of January. So this is the bulk of our tax revenue that we'll get for this year, but there will be some money trickling in for the next 8 months, or 6 months, I'll say that. But 96%, we usually budget about 97% of that number. Certain amount of it's just uncollectible. Moving to our enterprise funds, right now we have a $1.9 million net cash flow. We generated $8.9 million in revenue. We have $7 million in enterprise expenditures. We've collected 35% of our year-to-date revenue, and we have expensed 28% of the year-to-date expenses. This is just another summary slide here of our budget for our enterprise funds. The budget's $25,035,739. The year-to-date revenue, $8,936,020. You'll see the revenue just for the month of February. In the February 2024 total column, we collected in the month of February $2,129,485. Year-to-date, as I said earlier, we collected 36% of our budgeted revenues for the enterprise fund. Expenses, year-to-date expenses are a little over $7 million. $7,028,195, which translates to 28% of our expense budget for our enterprise funds. That will conclude our finance report through the first 5 months of the fiscal year.
Okay. At this point, members of council will go to city council comments at 2 minutes intervals. Mr. Heath is not here, so in this case, I'll start with you, Mr. Smallwood.
I don't have anything.
No comment? Okay, Ms. Hudson?
Yes, I want to shout out to our fire department, our parks and recs, if I forgot anybody, if it's economic development, for your hard work in achieving our grants, keeping that going. An inclusive government is an effective government. Our citizen engagement tool that I want you all to pay attention to that I have, join the www.fairburn.com and subscribe there, where you'll see blogs and giving you some tutorials and information about things that's happening in our local government. I have had a great experience with the NLC conference, and I want our citizens to know that conference gave me the opportunity to go to Capitol Hill and meet with our congressional representative, David Scott, and a follow-up meeting they held with me about a week ago to discuss funding without a 20% match for water and sewage. And I'm happy to, announce that Fairburn has applied for a grant, and I believe that's the same grant. And we signed our letters of support over this weekend at our retreat. As it goes for our retreat, the goals, I really was grateful to have the opportunity to present or discuss the topics related to the rewrite of the charter, the installing of the Board of Ethics, and our very robust discussion about a disparity study. So I want to give hats off, shout out, thank you so much for the administration for including those topics. Our goals, this retreat would have been phenomenal with strategic partners involved. We have a lot going on in our city, and we can't all get it right by ourselves.
Got 10 seconds.
All right.
Keep going.
I would like to see GMA involved, as well as ARC and other strategic partners. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Mr. James, I can't see you now. James, go ahead, sir.
No comments, Mayor.
No comment? Okay. I'll go with Ms. Jones.
No comment, Mayor.
Okay. Ms. David?
A small comment. Just congratulate our staff and our mayor for your vision and our administration vision for a fantastic retreat. You kind of worked us hard there, but we need to know all this stuff that you all do to let us know what's coming ahead so we can plan and also have some input in reference to that. So it was extremely professional. We were on time for the most part. You had to get that little tap from Mr. Phillips when we were eating. It was time to get back to work. But I don't think people understand the time and energy to put something like that together. And I just feel very proud of our staff for doing what you do so well. Thank you.
Okay. And I thought I meant to bring my book that we had, buying it.
The thick.
A big, thick book that we went through the whole weekend, and I wanted our people to see how much energy the staff put into. I apologize, I left it in my office. But I want to just thank the staff, first of all, again, for the great retreat and the level of professionalism you just heard about, in-depth research. And with all the projection as relates to decisions that we have to make as relates to infrastructure, funding, the whole 9 yards, it was just a blessing. I want to also thank, again, our city administrator and staff for the information that you heard me read into the record at the beginning of the meeting, the 10% savings that will be in the next utility bill, I believe is the next bill. Again, I want to thank the staff as we met with several homeowners for over several weeks around the city, not just the Magnolias. We met them in various parts of the city to address their utility bill, and so very proud of the job and the extra time the staff put in, a lot of hours to prepare for that feat. I also want to thank the Recreation Department. Had an awesome Easter egg hunt at Duncan Park with 350 plus kids yesterday. Just totally unbelievable. And then finally, I want to thank our Finance Department again. You heard it mentioned, I think Ms. Hudson mentioned it, but we had a great presentation at the retreat as relates to the funding, in this case, that our staff has actually been in the works for 6+ weeks. I want to just commend. I believe that was submitted today, if I'm correct. And so again, want to commend our Finance Department for basically beating the deadline with all the submissions that was required to apply for that money. And so, again, with that being said, Mr. City Attorney, we have an executive session, correct? For a real estate. Okay, got you.
Real estate.
Okay. Can I entertain a motion to go into executive session for a real estate matter?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a good night. Okay, we're now,
Ready?
go ahead, Ms. James.
The first item is a resolution for the city of Fairburn to abandon the blanket easement regarding the Johns River Townhomes at Brookhaven.
Members of council, you've heard the item read by the clerk. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Smallwood, second by Ms. Davis. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Second item is a resolution for right-of-way acquisition in concert with the Department of Transportation to install a left turn lane along Oakley Industrial Boulevard in the amount of $6,200.
Members of council, you've heard the item regarding a right-of-way acquisition. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
The third motion is a motion to purchase a right-of-way acquisition parcels 3 and 5 for the Gillette Road Full Depth Reclamation Project.
Members of council, you've heard the item, the third item read. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion's made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.